Hello friends, welcome to another session of video tutorial on Selenium Java. In today's session we will go through what is Log4J and we will take a look at one of the example of Log4J. Please subscribe, like, share, comment the videos on this channel. If you have any training inquiries, please contact me at techtrainerraj@gmail.com. Okay, so let us look at what is Log4J first. Log4J provides logging services. And it is not a mandatory tool, it is a complementary tool wherein all the log messages can be stored in one place. Either you can log them to a console or to a particular file. Why we need to log all the messages? It helps in debugging the application. It also provides a detailed context on the failure. This logging behavior can be controlled by editing the config file. If the application crashes or if the application behaves incorrectly, then the only option we have to debug is by going through the log file. So that is where Log4J plays a very important role. It helps developer in providing detailed context of the failure by logging in the information or necessary information into the log file. By looking at the log file, you can pinpoint where could be the exact failure and what is the cause for the exact failure. There are some disadvantages by using Log4J. First one is it increases the size of the code and it reduces the speed of the application. Okay. It increases the size because you have to add additional code so that it logs necessary information into the log file or console. And since the size of the code has increased, it will also affect the speed of the application. Okay, so let us see what are the components of Log4J now. Log4J has got three components. It basically works with the configuration file, wherein the three components are loggers, appenders and layouts. Loggers are the one which helps in printing the messages to the console or file. Appenders are the one which helps in appending log messages to the file, and layouts will define formatting the log messages. Log4J has got different levels of logging the information. They are trace, debug, info, warn, error and fatal. Generally all the application, whenever it is deployed, it will be under info or warning. Whenever we need to debug a particular application for a particular failure, then we need to configure the Log4J properties file to trace or debug level, depending on what level of log messages you want to see. Okay, so let us take a look at one example now. Okay, let us flip over to Eclipse. Okay, let me close all of these. Okay, I'm going to create a new Maven project. Provide a group ID. Provide artifact ID. Click on finish. Let us add the dependencies to form.xml file. I'm going to add a few dependencies here. The first one will be Log4J. Go to Maven repository, search for Log4J. Okay, select Apache Log4J, and this is the one. Copy the dependency, paste it here. The other one will be test ng. Okay, the next one will be Selenium Java. Okay, ended this, control save. Okay, it is downloading all the dependencies. And the next thing is, earlier I had made a video on how to work with simple web controls. So I'm going to take the same example here. I have copied the simple web controls.java from that particular project, and then I'm going to paste it into source main Java. Okay, so this is the one. This, what I have done is I have taken a before method and after method, and what this test will do is it will go to form authentication and uses the login details and clicks on login button. Okay, now let us see how we can include Log4j into this. Okay, first thing is I'm going to create a new folder called config here. Okay, right click, new folder, config. Okay, under this I'm going to create a new file called log4j.properties. Log4j always uses this particular file, and make sure that your file name is log4j.properties. Okay, click on finish. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste some values here, which I will explain it later on after copying. Okay, I have copied the properties here. The first one is a logger option, which is a root logger option, which says print all the debug messages into your file as well as your console. So there are two appenders. One is file appender, the other one is console appender. So this is the logger, and these are all the appenders. There are three components available in Log4j. One is logger, which is this one here. Okay, and there is an appender here, and there is a formatter here. So let me explain one by one. Root logger says, okay, I want to print debug messages into the log file as well as console. Okay, so file. So let us look at file first. Okay, the file one is here, which is a file appender. What it says is, okay, it's a rolling file appender. If the maximum size is hit, then it rolls over to the next file. It is going to create one folder called logs folder, and inside that the log file will be called main.log. Okay, so append is equal to true. That means if it already exists, then you append it. That means append the messages, log messages. Okay, and then the maximum file size will be 10 MB. Once it hits 10 MB, then it rolls over to the next file. Okay, the maximum backup index is 5. That means at any stage you can only have 5 backup files. Which layout is it going to use? So it is going to make use of this pattern layout class. Okay, and what is the pattern it is going to use? The pattern will be decided by this. Okay, once we see the example, then you will come to know. The same way for console also, there is an appender here. Okay, here also it is going to use console appender, and the target will be system.out, which is here console, and it is going to use the pattern layout class again, and the pattern will be of this type. Okay, so we will see with one example what this pattern looks like. Okay, so since we have configured our log4j properties file, let us add some code to the class file. Okay, before we add some code to this class file, so we need to define a static logger object. Okay, here I'm going to add static logger object. Okay, which will be again a final one. Final static logger object. Okay, final static logger log is equal to logger dot get logger. I'm going to use the name here. Okay. Simple log. Okay, so this is how you create a final static logger object. So I am going to make use of this log to print the messages. Okay, after this we need to tell the logger to use this log4j properties, which is available under config. For that, under init, I'm going to tell it to use property configurator class under log4j dot configure, and our file name is in config, which is config slash log4j dot properties. Okay, so here I'm telling it to use the log4j properties, all the properties from log4j properties file. Use log4j properties. After this, I'm going to make use of a log object. Okay, so log dot. Okay, so there are many levels of logging available, so such as error, fatal, debug, info. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it as log dot info. I'm going to have some as info, some as warning, some as debug. Okay, setting the properties here, setting the system property. Okay, the same way I'm going to have instead of info, I will call it as debug. Okay, here I am creating a driver instance. Okay, I'm going to make use of another debug message here. We are setting the URL to Facebook. Okay, the same way I'm going to make use of these in Okay, so this I'm going to put it as info. Okay, closing the driver here. I'm going to add it here also. Info using form authentication from the internet. Okay, the same way I'm going to have a debug message here. Which is setting the username and password. Okay, so this I will make it as debug. And this one will also be a debug. Clicking on the login button. So I'm going to save this. Now I'm going to run this. Right click, run as test-ng test. Okay, this should not have been Facebook. This should have been the internet hero kuapp.com. Which is this. Okay, so let us save this. Let us rerun this. Click run as test-ng test. Okay, it ran the test. Now as you can see, let us go back to our log4j properties file. For this console, okay, since we are only printing the debug messages, okay, so it has printed both info as well as debug. Simple log is the name which we have given. Okay, if you look at this, this is the simple log. Simple log is the name which we have given. Okay, one thing to note here is, earlier we have seen the levels, correct? If we put in debug, then whatever underneath that will also be printed. Okay, for example, if I put it as info, warning will also be printed, error will also be printed, and fatal will also be printed. So if I put in debug, whatever the level below that will also get printed. That is what we have seen here. Since we put in debug, info gets also printed. Since we don't have the other levels, only info and debug is getting printed here. If you look at log4j properties, for this pattern, first one is the type or the level and the name, followed by a dash here and the message. Let us take a look at the file. Okay, so if I refresh this, I should be getting logs folder. Okay, under logs folder I should be having a main.log. As you can see here, the format is different because what we are saying here is, okay, so you print the date, the time, the level, the file name with the line number and the actual message. Okay. So this pattern will give you this kind of log messages in the log file. Okay, let us go back and change this to info. Okay, save this. Again, right click, run as test engineer. Okay, as you can see, earlier we had seen debug also. Now we have only info messages. So this is one way of controlling what messages you want to see in the log file as well as under the console. Okay, so if I refresh this again, okay, so here you can see only info messages are being displayed. Okay, so that is how we can control. So most of the control can be done through properties, and the formatting control can also be done using these formatters. Okay, another thing to note here is, since we have said file and console here, okay, to demarcate which one goes to file and which one goes to console, we can also have it as any name, for example A1, B1. Okay, if you change this to A1 and B1, then this should also change. Okay, earlier A1 was file, so now this will become A1. Wherever there is a file, you need to change this to A1. Okay, you can give any name here. Okay, as long as this root logger matches with this, it is going to log it. A1. So for console it's going to be B1 now. Okay. And this should still work. Let us right click and see. Run as test. As you can see, it is still printing these messages. It is not necessary that you have to provide a particular name. As long as this matches with the appenders, whatever you have created, then it should log the messages. This is how we can use a simple Log4j to log the messages into both console as well as file. Okay, that is the end of today's session. Please stand by for more videos on this channel. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe the channel.